Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this session this morning. My name is Emma, and I am a professional coach. I'm really excited to be here today to join you in the virtual village hall for the Get Moving week. So while I introduce myself and tell you a little bit more about me and what we're going to be doing today, it would be really great for those of you who have taken some time out to join me today to just pop your name and where you're watching from today in the comments, and I will check in with you in a moment. So Irene's already said good morning. Good morning, Irene. Good morning, everybody else. Okay, so as I said, my name is Emma. I am a professional coach. I have a special interest in well-being, which is really important at the moment, so I'm sure you all agree. And I have a really strong passion about positive psychology. So positive psychology is the scientific study of what makes life worth living. So it is about how we approach our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. And it has a special focus on building the good in life and what we need to help us to flourish. So positive psychology is really powerful, and I'll be using some of that today. I'm also a mental health first aider, and I'm a mindfulness meditation teacher. So I was very proud and delighted to be part of the virtual village hall back in October. So you might have seen me a little before and what we were doing in that week was Mindspace week. So really delighted to be back again today and offering this session as part of Get Moving week. So let's just check in with who we've got today. We've got Debs, and we've got Betty, and we've got Irene. So good morning to all of you, and thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join me. So what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to take a slightly different take on Get Moving. So when I was chatting to the team at the Royal Voluntary Service, Get Moving is about exercise, and I know Mr. Motivator kicked off this week yesterday, I think it was. But I'm not going to be talking about exercise unless it is one of your goals. What I'm going to be talking about today is how to get moving towards your goals and helping you to find a direction for 2022, which is going to be completely unique and personalized to you. So we could be talking about exercise if that's one of your goals, but we're going to be getting moving towards what your ideal future looks like, which is a lovely thing to be doing in January. I'm not a huge fan of New Year's resolutions because in my experience, most of them are doomed to failure. And we are going to be covering today why that is. So we're not going to set goals that are doomed to failure. We're going to set goals that are absolutely going to work. Okay, so we're going to be talking about why goal setting is a good idea and what the positive psychology research has to say on goal setting. We're going to be using a really wonderful coaching tool called the Wheel of Life. And it's really helpful to help us to identify our goals for 2022. And just so you know, I mean, even though I'm a coach, I use this tool myself every year. Every January, I sit down and have a bit of a think about what's going on in my life, what I need to change, what I need to improve. And I use this tool every year. And I check in with this tool probably once every 3 or 4 months just to see how I'm getting on with it. So it's a really powerful tool that you can come back to time and time again if you like it. And I just need to give you a little bit of a heads up now that there is a workbook that accompanies this session today. And if you have downloaded it, that will be great because all of the information that you need is in the workbook. So that means that you can obviously come back to this time and time again and spend a bit more time on it if you'd like to. If you haven't got the workbook or you haven't been able to download it, then if you could just go and grab a pen and paper, that would be really helpful. And I will explain to you how we're going to be using the Wheel of Life in a few moments. Okay, so once we've got an idea of the goals we'd like to set, we're then going to do some sense testing. And sense testing is the bit that we generally don't do when it comes to New Year's resolutions. And sense testing is, do I actually want to do this? Is this goal based on something that I feel I should do, or I need to do, or I have to do, but I don't really want to do it? And sometimes those goals are still worthwhile. In fact, I had a massive goal last year that I didn't really want to do, but I did want what came at the end of it. So there's ways of looking at these goals. And we also sense test the action steps that you're going to take to achieve these goals. Are you motivated to do them? And if not, what would be a better fit for you? So when people set their New Year's resolutions, and I'm actually going to talk through one as an example as we go through this, very often we say, oh, I really should do this, but we don't really sense test whether we actually want to do it. And we don't sense test the action steps that we need to take. So we're going to have a deep dive into that just to make sure that this is something that you do actually want to be doing. We're then going to be looking at what the ideal looks like to you. And we're going to be using a really powerful exercise called the future pacing exercise. And I will take you through all of that so you can understand what the ideal looks like. And then finally, we're going to set one top goal for you, which is going to be completely unique and personalized to you. And we are going to set the action steps that you are going to be motivated to take to achieve that goal. So that's where we're going today. Like I said, if you can download the workbook, that would be great. If not, pen and paper would be fabulous. I'm just going to have a little look at the comments, see who else has joined us. Glenda says she's going to watch in later because the signal keeps dropping out. Sorry about that, Glenda, but hopefully you can pick this up later on Facebook or YouTube. So good morning to everybody else. If you've just joined us, please just put your name and where you're dialing in from today, so I can see who we've got with us today. And it's a very practical session today. So if you've got any questions along the way, please just do pop them into the comments, and I will answer them as soon as I spot them coming. All right, so let's get cracking. So what does positive psychology actually tell us about goal setting? So goals give us a bit of a direction. They are the stepping stones from where we are today to where we would like to be in the future. And when we're hopeful about our future and we're aware of the possibilities that are available to us, we're much more likely to be happier. So having goals can make us happier. Now, there is quite a lot of research coming out fairly recently, actually, which says that goals don't make us happier because they highlight the difference between where we are now and where we would like to be. And they highlight the gap, and the gap can make us less happy. However, if we sense test our goals, so this is something I really want to do, the actions are really personalized and unique to me, and I'm really motivated to achieve them, those kind of goals make us happier because they give us a sense of meaning and purpose, and they can give us like that real motivation to go out and achieve them. So the sense testing is the key here. So when we have goals that we want to achieve, not something we should achieve, that we're not that fussed about, but something we want to achieve, and we know what action steps we're going to take and we're motivated to take them, it makes us more hopeful about the future, and it increases our sense of optimism and happiness. Now, what positive psychology research has shown us, it's not just achieving the goal that makes us happier. So it's not a delayed sense of happiness. It is the act of choosing the goal, choosing the action steps, planning the action steps, how we're actually going to go about taking those actions. It's the act of working towards our goals and this future that we would like for ourselves, as well as achieving that goal, that makes us happier. So it makes us happier throughout the whole process. It's not just when we achieve the goal at the end. So just to recap, positive psychology says that when we've got really good goals that we've sense tested carefully, it will make us happier and more hopeful about our future. So we're going to, before we have a look at the first model, which is called the Wheel of Life, just want to say hello to Angela, who's joining us from Gloucester, and hello to Kathleen, who's joining us from Lincoln. So hello to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. All right, so we're going to take a quick look at the Wheel of Life. So Miles, could you, thank you, you're on it. This is what the Wheel of Life looks like. Hopefully you can see this. I'm just going to explain what you can see here. So the Wheel of Life looks like a big circle, and it's cut into 8 segments. And these 8 segments are meant to represent different aspects of our lives. So I will just walk you through the segments that we've got here. So if we start at about 1 o'clock on this wheel, we've got family and friends at the top. We've got significant other or romance. We've got fun and recreation, health, money at the bottom there, personal growth, physical environment, which could be your home or your office or whatever. And then we've got career at the top. So this is what the Wheel of Life looks like. These segments are meant to represent the key areas of your life. Now, some of them might not be relevant to you. And so this is where you can have the opportunity to personalize your Wheel of Life. So if you've managed to download the workbook, if you take a look at page 2, if you've got your pen ready, you can start personalizing the Wheel of Life. And for those of you who don't have the workbook, if you've got a pen and paper ready, just draw a big circle and cut it into 8 segments, like you can see here. And then you can either use these titles that you can see, or you can amend them so they make sense to you. So the personalization of the Wheel of Life is really important. So Miles, if we could go to slide 2. Thank you. So often when I do this with clients, they will say to me, I can't actually think of friends and family in the same section. So what I say was, well, just draw a line down that segment, and then you might put family or wider family and friends, and then you can think about that part separately, and that might be more relevant for you. And then Miles, if we could go to the next slide. Thank you. So on the next segment round, we've got significant other or romance. So, you might not have a significant other, that's fine, or you might want to have a bit more romance in your life. So that might be relevant for you. And then what I've got here is immediate family. So when I work with my clients, a lot of them say, well, I've got a significant other and I've got my family who live in my house, like my kids or whoever it is that lives in the house. And then they've got their wider family that doesn't live with them, but still wider family. And then they've got their friends. And so this kind of segmentation might make more sense to you. But if you could just have a bit of a think about these segments and just amend them so they make sense to you, really, because it's got to be personalized for you. And then Miles, if we could go to the last slide, please. Thank you. So if we look at the top segment, about 11 o'clock-ish on this wheel, we've got career. So if you don't have a career, you might want to change this to contribution, which I thought might be relevant for you guys because you're all part of the Royal Voluntary Service. So contributing to your community or contributing to the world at large, or contribution in some way might be relevant for you. So the point here is you can just personalize this wheel so it makes sense to you. So for example, if you are an accomplished musician and you like playing a musical instrument and it's a really big part of your life and it's important to you, you might have a segment that says music. If you are a really, really keen gardener and you absolutely love gardening, growing your own fruit and veg or whatever it is, you might have a section here that says gardening. So I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to just personalize your wheel of life so it makes sense to you and it contains all of the segments that are relevant to your life. So I'll just let you do that for a couple of minutes. If anyone's got any questions, do please pop them in the comments. Okay, so hopefully you've all got a wheel of life now, and you've amended the segments so they make sense to you, and you've included all of the bits of your life that are important to you. They all have a segment on your personalized wheel of life. And so Miles, thank you for the slides and thank you for showing those. You can take this down when you're ready. Thank you. Big thanks to Miles, because otherwise I would have broken the technology. So yeah, thanks for the help with that one. Okay, so you've got your personalized wheel of life. So now what we're going to do is we're going to give each segment a score out of 10. So if you've got the version in the workbook, you will see that there's like lots of rings inside the wheel of life, and they've all got a number against them, but you don't necessarily need that. You can just have a bit of a think about that aspect of your life, that segment on the wheel of life, and give it a score out of 10. So before we do that, I'll just explain how this bit works. So if the center of the wheel of life, if you're using the one in the workbook, is graded as a 1. Now 1 means really unhappy with that aspect of my life. It's not going well. I'm not fulfilled. There's lots of stuff that needs changing and improving. And then if you look at the outer edges of the wheel of life, that's graded as a 10. And a 10 means you're highly satisfied with that area of your life. It's pretty much great, really happy, not a lot that you need to change or improve in that aspect of your life. So whether you're using the workbook or not, it doesn't really matter. What I'm going to ask you to do is just have a bit of a think about each segment of the area of the wheel of life, and have a think about what's good in that area of your life and what's fulfilling, what's working really well. And also have a bit of a think about any frustrations in that area of your life, anything that you'd like to change, anything that you're tolerating that really does need improving. Just have a think about that segment. Don't overthink it. Whatever number you give it is completely unique to you and it's entirely subjective. So no one else needs to see this. You don't need to share your score with me. So please don't overthink it. Just go with your gut feel and give it a score out of 10. Just remember, this is a snapshot in time. If you do this in 3 or 4 months' time, it will be different. So if I just give you a few minutes there, just to have a think about each segment, what's working well, what's not working so well, give it a score out of 10. 1 is not great, 10 is amazing. Don't overthink it. So I'll be quiet now and let you do that scoring. Okay. All right. So hopefully had a few moments there just to have a bit of a think about the segments of your wheel of life give it a score out of 10. 1 means it's not great. 10 minutes, fabulous. Again, no need to overthink it. Just pop down a number. All right. Okay, so the next step in using the Wheel of Life is to review your scores. So what I'm going to invite you to do now is just have a look at the scores that you've given each of the segments and just make a note of the segment that received the lowest score. So again, if you've got the workbook, there's space for you on page 2 to write this down, but if not, it doesn't matter. You can just make a note which one received the lowest score and just draw a circle around that. And now just have a bit of a think about what would you like to change or improve about that segment on the Wheel of Life. So why did you give it a low score? And what is it that you would like to change or improve about that area? Okay, and just make a note of what that is. And this is your overall goal. So I'm just going to give you a bit of an example of how this works. So I did this quite recently, actually, with a client, and she's given me permission to share the story, but I'm not going to share any names or personal information. So we were doing the Wheel of Life, and she scored each of the segments, and she came up with a really low score for health. So the segment of health on the Wheel of Life, she gave, I think it was a 3 out of 10. And when she scored all the segments, I said, right, what's the lowest score? She said health. I said, right, what is it that you want to change or improve about your health? And she said, well, I really would like to lose weight, which is that old one that I'm sure a lot of all of us have had this as a goal at some point in our lives. I really would like to lose weight. And I was like, right, okay, so that's the goal. So the segment was health. It got a score of 3 out of 10. When I asked her what she wanted to change and improve, she said, I want to lose weight. That was her goal. Losing weight is the goal here in this example. So then I'm going to ask you to do this in a minute, but I'm just going to give you an example of how this actually works. So I said, right, well, you gave it a 3 out of 10. What could you do to move it from a 3 out of 10 to a 4 out of 10? And she said, oh, okay, well, I could give up sugar. So great. What could you do to move it from a 4 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10? And she said, well, I could go and join the local gym. Brilliant. What could you do to move it from a 5 to a 6 out of 10? And she said, I think I could join a slimming club. So brilliant. Okay, so now we've got the goal, which is losing weight, and we've now got 3 actions, which for her were giving up sugar, joining a gym, and joining a slimming club. So this is just an example that I'm sharing with you, but what I'd like you to do now with this segment that you gave the low score, regardless of what the number is, how can you get from the score you gave that segment up to the next number? So if you gave it a 3 out of 10, how can you get from a 3 to a 4 out of 10? Just make a note of how you could move up to the next number. Okay, so hopefully you've got one small action step that you can take to move from the score that you gave that segment up to the next number. And now I'm going to ask you to move from the number where you are now up to the next number on the wheel of life. So if you originally gave that segment a 3 out of 10, and we've moved it up to a 4, how can you get from a 4 to a 5 out of 10? And this would be your second action step. Okay, so hopefully you've now got an overall goal and 2 action steps. And so now we're going to do the really important bit, the bit that we generally don't do with New Year's resolutions, and the bit which is really important because it makes sure that we've got a goal that's really meaningful to us and action steps that we actually want to take. And I will explain this bit, but if anyone's got any questions so far, please do pop them in the comments. So by doing this bit, the sense testing bit, we are going to look at, and if you've got the workbook, there's space for you to do this, but we're going to look at, why is this goal important to you? What does this goal give you? And when you achieve this goal, what will it mean to you? And if you can answer those questions about the goal that you've set, then you know that you're on the right track. If you're having to dig around and go, well, I don't really know why it's important, and if I achieve it, I'm not really too sure what that will give me, or I can think what it might give me, but I'm not really that interested, then you know that that goal is probably not a good one for you. And if it's not, that's okay. Because as my coach once told me, you're an adult. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. Not entirely true, that bit. But when you're setting your goals, you don't have to do a goal if you don't really want to do it. If you do the sense test and you think, I don't want to do this, that's absolutely fine. And that's why we do this sense test, just to do a bit of a double check. Another question you could ask yourself is, does the thought of this goal, does it excite me or energize me? If you're thinking about this goal and thinking, oh, I don't really want to do it, then don't do it. Okay, then when you look at your actions, a really good thing to do is use the same scale, the 1 out of 10 scale, and have a look at your actions and like, how motivated are you to achieve these actions? So hopefully you've got 1 or 2 action steps from moving from a 3 to a 4, 4 to a 5, and so on and so on. Hopefully you've got a couple of action steps. So how motivated are you to achieve them? So when you think, oh yeah, I really want to do this, I think it's a really good idea and can't wait to get started, then you could give that a 10 out of 10. I'm really motivated to achieve this action. If you're thinking, well, not that bothered, you can maybe give it a 2 out of 10, and then you know that that action's not right for you, and that's okay. So while you're having a bit of a think about this, why is this goal important? What will this goal give me? When I achieve this goal, what will it mean to me? When I think about this goal, does it excite me or energize me? And how motivated am I to take these actions, the action steps that are needed to achieve the goal? So while you're having a bit of a think about that, I will just share something with you. So in coaching terms, we use a concept called the inner critic. I've never met anyone who doesn't have an inner critic, and most people have lots of inner critics. And in coaching terms, we call it the inner critic, but these are basically the voices or the thoughts that you have in your head that are not very helpful. So often when I'm doing the sense check with clients, I will and they'll talk about what's important to them, and that it starts feeling a little bit shaky and a little bit weak what comes out of that is that they feel like they should do it. Well, I feel like I should lose weight because everything in the women's magazine shows me that I should. Society tells me that I should lose weight. And if you are looking at this thinking, well, I should do, or I need to, or I have to, then it'd be a really good idea to double check that goal, because it might be the voice of the inner critic that is driving that goal. And if that is the case, it's very unlikely that you will achieve the goal. So if there's any should, have to, need to, must, the inner critic is setting the goal. And a brilliant goal is something that you actually want to do, and you actually want to do the actions. Another thing that you need to be aware of with the inner critic is when you're setting your actions, the inner critic is basically there to keep you safe. It wants to maintain the status quo, because the status quo is usually relatively safe. So it doesn't want you to put yourself out there. It doesn't want you to change anything, because if you do, that way danger lies, according to the inner critic. However, what I say to all of my clients is everything that you ever want is on the other side of your comfort zone. You are going to have to step out of your comfort zone to move towards what you actually want. And your inner critic might be saying, when you set your actions, your inner critic might be saying, oh, don't do that. That's dangerous. Or why have you put that down? That's never going to work. Or do you honestly think you're going to achieve that? I mean, who do you think you are? If there's any of that going on, the inner critic is present. The inner critic is not helpful. We need to tell the inner critic to go away. And one of my clients actually says she gets her inner critic to clean the toilet. So she can actually think about her goals and her actions and sense test them all without the inner critic present, because it's cleaning the toilet. And she can come up with some really strong goals and actions that she's actually quite excited to achieve. So while you have a bit of a think and do a bit of sense testing of your goals and your actions, I just want to give you an example of my weight loss client. So when I talk to her about, why is the goal of losing weight really important to you? What will it give you to lose weight? What does it mean to you to lose weight? Why, what is it about this goal that's important to you? And she came up with a lot of shoulds. I should do this. I need to do this. I feel like I have to do it. And I was like, right, this is never going to work. This is never going to get off the starting blocks. So we really explored that goal. And then she came up with a goal, which is still losing weight, but she found the meaning. And the meaning was she really wanted to be healthier because she had 2 young children, and she wanted to be able to run around after them and have the energy to keep up with them. So that was her reason for losing weight, not because she felt that she should. So she found a really strong personal meaning for that. And then we moved to her actions. So her first action, if you can remember, was to give up sugar. And we explored that. And she said, actually, if I give up sugar, I'm just going to crave it. And then I might go a bit nuts about, really wanting the sugar. So what I'm actually going to do is give up eating chocolate after dinner. I don't need it because I'm already full. I don't need this chocolate, so I'm not going to do that. But if I want sugar earlier in the day, I'm just going to be careful about it. So I was like, great, we've now tailored an action that is doable and achievable and is personal to her. So giving up sugar as a whole wasn't great. She didn't feel motivated to do that. But giving up chocolate after dinner felt much more comfortable for her. So this is the sense testing bit. Then we looked at, what was the other thing? Joining the gym. And when we really explored that, she was like, I don't want to join the gym. I'm not motivated to do that in the slightest. So I'm like, great, brilliant. What are you motivated to do? So she said that she would go for a walk around the block at lunchtime. So much more achievable for her and something that she felt motivated to do. And then the last one was joining a slimming club. And again, we explored that, and she said, oh, I don't want to join a slimming club. And I was like, well, okay, we came up with it for a reason. What was the reason? And she said, I want the companionship and I want the accountability. So I said, right, well, I will provide you with accountability because that's what a coach does. So I was her accountability partner. And with the companionship, she decided to enlist the support of her sister. So as you can see here, as we explored how motivated she was to actually achieve the actions, she wasn't really, but then she came up with something else that she really was motivated to do and felt much more comfortable in achieving. So this sense testing bit is quite important, as you can probably tell. Okay, so by this point, hopefully you've got a goal, hopefully you've got a couple of actions, and we've sense tested all of that. So if you feel that you need to amend your goal in any way, or you need to amend any of your action steps, then please go ahead and do that to make them more achievable, and you're more motivated to go out, put in the time and energy to achieve them. So when we did this process, did anybody come up with a goal or an action step that was driven by the inner critic? It was driven by, oh, I should do this, but I don't actually want to do it. Or I need to do it, or I think I have to do it, but I don't really want to. Did anybody come up with a goal that they realise was driven by the inner critic? You don't need to tell me what the goal is, but if you did find one of those goals, please just put a yes in the comments. And hopefully by my little example, you've seen that actually that's really normal, happens all the time. Okay. All right, so what we can do with the Wheel of Life, I mean, I know that we're rattling through this at quite a pace, but if you download the workbook, you can take your time over it and really give it some thought. And we're only working with one segment of the Wheel of Life today, but you can revisit all of the other segments. So what we can do is move up through the Wheel of Life, move up through the numbers. So if you gave it a 3, we could move to a 4, and then a 5 and a 6, and so on. But often what I see with clients is that I say, right, so what does a 10 out of 10 look like to you? What does the ideal look like to you? So if you're looking at that segment in the Wheel of Life, what does a 10 out of 10 actually look like? And very often my clients will say, oh, I don't really know. I can't really see a 10 out of 10. Or the other extreme is that they'll move up through the numbers. They'll go from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They'll move all the way up. And then I will say, because I really want to push them and find out the ideal, what does a 20 look like? So if you've got to 10 out of 10 really quickly, what does a 20 look like to you? And often it's quite difficult to identify that. And that's really normal, because it's only through having a goal and taking action that the possibilities kind of unfold before you, and then the path forward becomes much more clear. So if you are the type of person who thinks, I don't know what a 10 out of 10 looks like, or I don't know what the ideal looks like, there is another way. And I'm going to take you through this today. And this is called a future pacing exercise. And this is, so when we go up through the numbers, so 3, 4, 5, and so on, we're kind of using our logical brain to think of actions that we could take to move us forward. And sometimes people get stuck because the actions are all at the same level. It's not like you're moving up with the actions. There's a number of actions that you could take that are all at the same level. So they don't necessarily move you from a 3 to a 4, 4 to a 5. There's like 10 actions that you could take to move you from a 3 to a 4, if that makes sense. So we're going to use this future pacing exercise to open up a different part of your brain. And by using your imagination, it accesses this part of the brain and can help you to imagine your ideal future. And it's quite a different process than moving up through the steps. So if you're still with me, I invite you to just put your pen and paper down for a minute. And we're going to go through this future pacing script. And it's just a short guided visualization to help you to imagine your ideal future in this segment of the Wheel of Life that you are working on. So if you'd just like to put your pen and paper down, close your eyes if that feels comfortable to you, or you can just lower your gaze. You can rest your feet on the floor, put your hands in your lap or wherever is comfortable for you. Just take a moment to take a few deep cleansing breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Just notice the chair supporting you. Just take a moment to allow your mind to identify any areas of tension in your body. And with every exhale, just release that tension and allow yourself to relax and go deeper. And as you continue to soften your breath, I invite you to set your imagination free. And you know that whatever you see or feel or sense is perfect for you and exactly as it should be. If the inner critic pops up with any unhelpful little thoughts, just tell it to go make you a cup of tea or clean the toilet or whatever makes sense to you. The inner critic doesn't need to be present for this bit. So now I invite you to imagine yourself surfacing from where you are seated right now, gradually floating up from your chair, leaving the room that you are in, leaving your house, and as you rise up, you notice the cool temperature as you float through the clouds and into the blue sky above. And now you can feel the warmth of the sun on your skin. And just give yourself a moment to look down and notice the earth below you. And from this perspective, you can see everything. And you are empowered with the knowledge that you can choose and achieve every aspect of your future. And as you float in the warm blue sky, you think about this segment of the wheel of life that you've been focusing on, and you feel yourself effortlessly being drawn 12 months into the future. So in January 2023, just take a moment to notice where your intuition and awareness has taken you. And as you continue to focus on your chosen segment from the Wheel of Life, you feel yourself floating down through the clouds until you are floating above the buildings and the trees. And you allow yourself to come down from the skyline and land on your feet. And as you can see yourself in January 2023, take a moment to look around you and notice the details. What can you see? Who else is around you? Take in the colours, the sounds, and the smells. And as you notice this place in your future, just notice what this aspect of your life looks like. This aspect of your life is entirely perfect and as it should be. And take a moment to notice what is different now. What do you appreciate at this point in your ideal future? And take a moment to notice how you feel. And how does this imagined future motivate you? And now I invite you to take a deep breath and allow yourself to save anything you need from this experience. It could be some thoughts, some images, or it could be a feeling in your body. Just allow it all in and remember what you need to remember. And now you gradually see yourself floating back up, rising higher into the sky, passing into the clouds above. And you feel yourself drawn back into this moment, this time, gradually coming back down to earth, into your home, the room that you are in, and your seat. And you bring with you a deep, heartfelt awareness of what your ideal future looks like for you. And as I count back from 5 to 1, I encourage you to bring back everything you need to remember. And you're going to have a few moments just to take some notes about anything that surfaced for you during this guided visualization. So 5, coming back into the present moment. 4, 3, feeling your feet on the floor. 2, wriggle your fingers and toes, come back into your body. And 1, you can open your eyes whenever you're ready. So I hope that we went through it quite quickly today, but hopefully you can come back to this on the Facebook page or on YouTube. You can listen to this whenever you like, if you feel that you need to, but hopefully you got something from the future pacing exercise. And if anybody wants to share their 10 out of 10 or their ideal or anything that surfaced from the future pacing exercise, if you want to pop that in the comments, then please do so. Otherwise, I'm just going to give you a minute or two just to make some notes from what surfaced from the exercise today? Okay. So hopefully you've managed to just jot down a few thoughts about what surfaced for you. Fantastic. Debs, thank you. You're still with us. That's brilliant. Great. So Deb says, thank you. That was very interesting, and I'll be using that in the future. Brilliant. That's really great. And Kathleen says that she saw herself in a committed and equal love relationship. How wonderful. That's beautiful, Kathleen. Really, really powerful. I think the future pacing exercise is really amazing. And I have to get somebody else to do it with me, but it's so powerful. I get my husband to read out the script, and I do it on myself every now and again. So yeah, thank you to Debs and Kathleen for sharing what they saw during the exercise. If anybody else has got anything they want to share or any questions, please just do pop them in the comments. All right, so it sounds like the future pacing exercise was a success for some of you. That's great. So the final bit from today is setting your top goal for 2022 and some action steps that you feel really motivated to achieve that. And thank you, Anne. Anne has just commented. She came in a little bit late. She's going to watch the replay. Brilliant. Very enlightening way to approach my issues. Yeah, it is. I think the future pacing exercise, using your imagination, it just takes you out of that logical, well, what could I do now? What could I do now? What could I do now? It just gives you another tool to play with, so to speak, another way of approaching issues. So yeah, I'm glad that was helpful for you, Anne. All right, so the last bit of today, we're nearly there, people. The last bit of today is identifying your top goal for 2022 and coming up with 3 action steps that you would like to take to improve this aspect of your life. So you thinking about the wheel of life that we did first and the future pacing exercise that we've just done. I'd like you to just, and the sense testing we've done along the way, I'd like you to just write down your top goal for 2022. So Kathleen, for you, this might be finding a committed and equal love relationship, or it could be restoring or creating. I don't know what your personal situation is. But yeah, if that's your perfect ideal, then set that goal that you would need to achieve to get what you want. So what is your overriding goal? So in the example, it was losing weight, but what is the overriding goal for you? And then combining the wheel of life and the future pacing exercise, what is one action step that you could take to move closer towards your goal? And when you're looking at this action step, we're going to be doing some sense testing along the way. So this is, okay, does this action step, do I actually want to do this, or I feel that I should do this? When I think about this action step, does it excite and energize me? Or do I feel a bit flat? So write down one action step. And then the thing about actions is that we have to make time to do them. And this is why New Year's resolutions don't really work. It's because people don't sense test them, that we've talked about. And generally they don't say, right, I'm going to do this action, and when am I going to do it? The thing about actions, we need to make time. We all have the same number of seconds, minutes, and hours in the day. So how are we going to carve out some time to take that action? So you might say, right, this is my overriding goal. This is my first action that I'm going to take that's going to move me closer towards my goal. And you're motivated about achieving this goal. So therefore, it should be relatively easy for you to find some time to take that action. So that could be, I'm going to do it at lunchtime, or I'm going to do it when I get home from work. I'm going to do it in the evening after dinner, or I'm going to do it at the weekend. So figure out a time that makes sense to you. Write down, I'm going to do this action step on this day at this time. You might need to, depending on how you run your life, you might need to put time in your diary or your calendar, or you might need to set a reminder on your phone, or you might need to set an alarm on your phone. If you have a lot of commitments, you might need to discuss it with the other people who share your life. So you tell them what you're doing, and you ask for their help in supporting you and giving you the time that you need to take this action. Okay, so if you're using the workbook, you have actually got space to write down 3 actions that you might like to take to move you closer to your goal. And again, I invite you to think about the Wheel of Life work that we've done, think about the future pacing exercise and your ideal and what came up for you in that guided visualization, and set another action that energizes you and excites you, and just make a note of that. And again, just figure out a time that's going to suit you, that you're going to set aside to take that action and move you closer towards your ideal future. And for the last few minutes of today's session, if you feel comfortable to do so, and there is absolutely no pressure, but if you do feel comfortable to do so, I'd really encourage you to share what you are committing to with this goal and this action. What action are you going to take this week? And if you want to pop that in the comments, that will be really great. And as you're doing that, hopefully, just going to rattle through what we've covered today. So we are moving towards your goals. So your goal might be exercise or it might not, but we're moving towards your goals and defining a direction for 2022. We've looked at the Wheel of Life exercise. We have scored relevant segments of your life to help you to come up with a goal. We've sense tested that goal to make sure it's something that you actually want to do, not something that you feel that you should do. We've come up with some actions and we've sense tested those to make sure that this is something that you feel really excited and energized about achieving. We've also done the future pacing exercise to help you to define your 10 out of 10 or your 20 out of 10. And hopefully you have come up with a really rock solid goal and a couple of really solid actions that you feel really excited to invest your time and energy in achieving. And so I know that we have whizzed through this very, very quickly. So once again, I really invite you, if you found this useful, to download the workbook. And there is a link to download it in the comments. Have another listen through today's session on Facebook or YouTube. And you can either work on one segment as we've done today, or you can work on multiple segments. And you can use the Wheel of Life multiple times as you go through this year, if that makes sense to you. I definitely do it, and it's really, really helpful to keep me on track. So with that, I would really like to say thank you so much for your time today. I hope you found today's session really, really helpful. I hope it's defined your direction for 2022, and just really want to say thank you for joining me today. So just for the last few minutes, we've got Deb saying she's going to do a form of movement every day, which includes walking, Pilates, I think that is, Tai Chi or yoga. So thank you, Debs, for sharing your commitment. One of the reasons sharing your commitment is quite helpful is that somebody somewhere is going to be accountable and ask you how you're doing. So thank you for sharing that with me today, Debs, but I really encourage you to share that with somebody near and dear to you so they can check in with how you're doing. So thank you so much for your time and attention today, guys. I'm going to wrap this one up. Please do download the workbook and listen to this again if it's been helpful. I know we rattle through it quite quickly, and I hope to see you again in the virtual village hall really soon. But wishing you all a fabulous 2022, and bye for now. Thanks, guys. See you soon.